It's just fantastic. Captain's log, subdate 210427.6. As an experiment, I have inserted some contraband into the cubes. This will contain a tracker, so we can punish the takers with mandatory castrations in front of all other inmates without anesthesia. Welcome everyone to the Halls of Injustice. Today we have inmates number 070, Paige Poole, and inmates number 070.5, Ross Kingsland. The majority of this story is going to focus on inmate 070, so Paige Poole, but Ross Kingsland does feature quite heavily with some rather dark subject matter. Consider this a trigger warning. Paige Poole is a 29-year-old babysitter who came from America and has a taste for, let's call it, the more extreme aspects of the bedroom. And yes, I am dulling that down, you will understand soon. She was married for about 1.5 years before she decided to branch out and explore these curiosities. To do this, she started using online websites for the extreme aspects of the bedroom. Not long into her search, she came across a man. She found 44-year-old businessman father Ross Kingsland. They even had pet names for each other. Ross Kingsland called himself the Dirty Dad, and Paige Poole was the Dark Angel. All of what we are about to discuss took place around the area Exeter, which is in the southwest of the United Kingdom. Paige Poole, to appease certain desires of Ross Kingsland, decided to produce some videos. Now these videos involved her being happy, naked, and with an 18-month-old child. That child, by the way, was a child that she was babysitting. There were a number of clients. Incidents involving that same child occurred up to 8 times. Sadly, no one bothered to count it, but they did go by the evidence that was later obtained. I do want to insert this now. Ross Kingsland was under surveillance. This is important because the police were after pedophiles. The photos, the videos were all sent via mobile phone from Paige Poole to Ross Kingsland. These two would then share explicit messages and would go so far as to build up a portfolio with all of that content, which also concerned plotting certain events that involved children together. To insert this now would seem relevant. All acts committed against the child were committed by Paige Poole. You'll understand this why when we get to the tail end of this video. So as earlier stated, the Met Police were very much aware of Ross Kingsland. They were not aware of Paige Poole, and so they set up an operation. A Met Police officer posed as a mother of 2 daughters aged 8 and 12, offering them up for sexual abuse on a site called They Grow Up So Fast. Kingsland on that site referred to himself as Dirty Dad and would then communicate with the mother, air quotes around that word, to meet up to then sexually abuse the young sisters. He also sent that same mother a video file, of a 5-year-old that he had said that he had abused. Now, I earlier mentioned all his charges don't reference him touching a child. This one's contentious. Last July, the police arrested Ross Kingsland at his home in Exeter, and the very next day, Paige Poole decided to go and visit the wife of Ross Kingsland to tell her that she was his girlfriend. There's a slap in the face. Gets better. The police then forensically examined mobile phones because Paige Poole had handed herself in. This then revealed that yes, they had a monstrous amount of content. We know it was monstrous because there are quite a lot of charges. We'll get to those later. Even though Paige Poole had handed herself in, even though she had surrendered her phone, when she was arrested in Staffordshire, they found a second phone hidden. The big difference between the phone that she had surrendered and the phone they had seized is that the one they had gotten from her, she had wiped, but she hadn't wiped this one, not the one they found. Ooh, things don't look so good for them right now. Eventually, this did go to trial, which didn't take long. In fact, I'd argue it took longer to read the list of charges. 32 in total, 20 of which were for Paige, 12 for Ross. These would include conspiring to commit sexual offences against a minor. And let's not forget the fact that Paige Poole did in fact sexually abuse a minor multiple times. For the sake of it, Ross Kingsland did just admit to all the charges, even though it was confirmed there is no proof he had actually done anything to a child. Not that it matters really, you are on quite a dark path with your fellow Black Heart. And after a trial, a short trial as earlier mentioned, they were both found guilty. They are both looking at quite long sentences, I bet you're all thinking, right? Well, for the 12 offences concerning conspiring to rape a minor, possessing indecent images that are of the more extreme category, Ross Kingsland was sentenced to 11 years. He will have to serve 2/3 of that before he is considered eligible or to be considered for parole. He will also be on the sex offenders register for life. Paige Poole, for all 20 offences, was found guilty. She was given 13 years for all 20 sex offences against children. Also, she'll have to serve 2/3 of that before she, like Ross Kingsland, can be considered for parole. She will also, again like Ross Kingsland, be on the sex offenders register for life. We'll get to the sentences in a moment. I do want to read what the judge said. Judge David Evans said, "You were both adults who knew what you were doing each and every step of the way. Each chose to plan and enact their deviant desires. This was a true meeting of wicked minds. The bold truth is that each of you is a morally corrupt pedophile, and it was the great misfortune of others that you found each other. You have deliberately and together caused the most awful distress to a good number of people. You have destroyed the lives of individuals and families concerned." I did notice at the end of the article, one of the articles I've referenced, it is linked, all of them are in fact down below, the Met Police are celebrating this as a success. I tend to fundamentally disagree, as the sentences to me are quite short. And I think I know, like all of you, what the sentence should be. Although I'm sure some of you are going to say D and then P. I'm going to say life, no parole, hard labour and mandatory castration. They will serve their time in the eunuch wing of a deuterium mine. So no cells for them, because I'm not wasting very, very, very lovely looking isocubes like this one on these two. No, 24/7, hard labour, no breaks. Don't worry, we have regen cycles, they take like 4 minutes, so it's okay. They will be working every day. There is one last thing I want to address, and it concerns the victim impact statements from the children's parents. They made some very valid points here, and it hurts them a lot when it comes to their job as guardians, because they themselves will serve and suffer a life sentence knowing that they could not protect their children from Paige Poole, and as a direct consequence of that will not be able to trust anyone with their children again. At first it was the clowns at parties, then it was the ice cream man, now it's the babysitter. At some point, people are just going to be staying at home forever with their kids because they won't, cannot, will not, shall not ever trust anyone, because literally anyone in every facet of life could be considered a sex offender, all because of people like this. Absolute scum. I think my sentence is better because at least I know you're doing something useful, but you're not getting paid for it. We're not giving you food either. Those Nutriloaves are valuable. I use those for the tax frauds. Anyway, as we are done here, I'd very much like to know what you think. I'm going to link 4 articles down below. They all cover this from various different angles and have little snippets of information that others do not. As a final thing, I'm on Twitch later. Have a fantastic day if I don't see you there, and thank you all for listening.